Barstool Rugby fans, how we doing? Dylan Saucedo here, and we are back for Man of the Match Wednesday with the Seattle Seawolves. Great to be back in the live today after a bye week from the Seawolves there last week, and a big 2 weeks in rugby for World Rugby in general. The 7th Circuit Grand Final, U20s USA wins up in Canada last week, and then today the Seawolves actually signed 2 players from the American Raptors who compete in the Super Rugby Americas. In between all that, I was actually able to join the Jackal's Den podcast 2 weeks ago and join them and talk a little bit about Barstool Rugby, rugby in America as a whole, and then my own rugby journey as well. So just wanted to give them a little shout out and talk about that a little bit. Had a great time on their podcast and just wanted to shout them out. I'll put them in the comments of the video later today, and you guys can go check that out on my Instagram page as well. So just want to get into that, but we'll get straight into our agenda here for today. Seawolves coming off a massive 10-try bonus point win at home over the Utah Warriors. Today we're going to talk to MLR's Player of the Week, Jade Stighling, and then the Seawolves for the match, Droste, about that today. 3 more matches for them until the playoffs, clinch that spot with the win. But I do think they really want that close match back from Houston, back from early in the season. I think it was a 42-40 loss there for them up in Tukwila, and they're going to be traveling down to Houston this Saturday night to play the SaberCats down in Houston. So very excited for that match to see what they have in store for us. And we're going to go ahead and Yes, and we're going to go ahead and get started here. So thanks for joining on today, guys, and we'll go ahead and get started here in a second. Here we go. Jade, how we doing?
Good on you.
Doing well. So thanks for joining us today. First off, my name is Dylan Saucedo. I play rugby up at the University of Utah. So fellow rugger myself, and just here to chat some rugby with you today. I'm here with Barstool Rugby, so we're just going to be talking about you as a player, and then obviously the organization, the Seawolves a little bit, and then how your guys' season's going. So great to have you on today again, and I'll just give the viewers a little bit of introduction of you. So Jade attended the Blue Bulls Academy in Pretoria from 2012 to 2021, playing in both the Curie Cup, Super Rugby, among other competitions. Joined the Seawolves before the season from the Toyota Pumas in the Curie Cup, where he was part of the 2022 championship and then another finals appearance in 2023. Now in 2024, he's been lightning on the wing for the Seawolves and finds himself as the MLR's Player of the Week this week after scoring 4 tries against the Warriors this past weekend. So great to have you on today, brother. How are you feeling after that big win?
Thanks for having me on, Dylan. It's been good. After the great win, first one after the bye weeks, definitely got us in the right direction for the next couple of games, the last block of games before playoffs. Feel like we kicked it off quite well.
Yeah. No, definitely. And it was great rugby to watch. Some of the things we've been talking about with the guys this year is wanting to play 80 minutes of that Seawolves rugby, right? I think your organization has kind of that standard for that level of play that you guys want to reach. And, you've been playing good rugby this season, but have had some, mishaps with two close losses there, before that Old Glory win a few weeks ago. And then, one to Houston back in the beginning of the season as well. Have an opportunity to get that back against Houston this weekend, and we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. But straight away, great performance by you guys. 68 points, just not something you see in professional rugby these days, right? Even the MLR this year, the past couple of years, I've only seen it a handful of times. So it was an exciting match to watch, and 10 tries from you boys in the week. So it was exciting. To me, it seemed like you guys played 80 minutes that Seawolf rugby. Took the opportunities, minimized the mistakes, and then finished in all aspects of the game. What was the message kind of going into that match this week for you boys?
I feel like we were very self-aware this week. We wanted to work on our processes and our game plan leading into the last block of games before playoffs. I feel like we definitely executed well in our set pieces, and that's what gave the backs a good fun football to attack from.
Definitely. No, and the forwards, had a great ball coming off the lineouts this week. Even with a few changes there in the forward pack, the lineouts have been powerful all year, and they stuck to be that this week as well. You were able to dot down a try 7 minutes into the match there. Crazy little team try there, actually. It was a kick to you guys, kind of bounced the other way, went down the sideline there on the left, and then I think Sam had a crazy behind the back pass. Somebody else with a truck there, and then out to you on the wing. So crazy try there in the first 7 minutes. And then about 30 minutes later, you intercept a pass, take it in, and you have the hat trick before halftime. Was that your first hat trick? And then how do you get back to the main focus to kind of finishing that match after that moment?
It was a good set of skills from the boys showing there. Good first time we actually clicked as a team, like collectively. I feel like we've been struggling that for this season, and I feel like it finally came the way we gelled. Coming off a hat trick, it's probably my hat trick of hat tricks now. It's my third hat trick.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, I feel like we just wanted to keep our foot on the throttle. We definitely learned some tough losses against Nola, where we kind of let the foot off the gas that second half, and which led us into losing that game. I feel like we didn't want to lose that in the second half of the game against Utah, and that's why we just try to focus on keeping our foot on the gas.
Definitely. No, and you guys did that great, right? It's always about the coming out of that second half, or coming into that second half, coming out of halftime, and putting the foot on the gas, right? Kind of keeping that energy that you had in the first half, bringing it back into the second half, and you had a try right there before halftime, so you guys kind of moved in with that smoothly. Obviously, coming back to that focus really worked for you. You were able to grab another try. Same kind of intercept right there in those last few minutes of the match. I think this actually makes you the first back to score 4 tries in an MLR match ever. So congratulations on that feat there. All the guys that I've talked to this year have kind of touched on, being better each week, regardless of the results, regardless of the opponent you're playing. What are the takeaways from this match moving into that next one?
Yeah, our end goal is still the same as to win the championship, and I feel like we obviously have processes and steps to get there. And I feel like this game was just proof of if we do know our role and do our role within our positions, the results come by itself. And I feel like we're chasing that for the next couple of weeks leading into the playoff game. Then I feel like we definitely on a good start.
Yes, sir. No, and it sounds like you guys are hungry, right? This Seawolves team has been, through highs and lows this season. Started off, a couple big wins there at the beginning of the year. Had those, kind of mid-season halves, which happens with every great rugby team, right? I think it's real important for you guys, especially, to have those kind of, close losses at some points in the season, just because it brings guys back to the main focus, right? Of trying to win that championship, get into that playoff spot. And you guys were able to clinch that playoff spot with the win this week. There's more rugby to be played, obviously, like you said, kind of the next 3 weeks here. Big rematch coming up this weekend against the Sabercats down in Houston. Backline had 8 tries last week. What are you guys looking to do this weekend against Houston?
I feel like definitely a bit of the same game plan going into Houston with a bit of a wider field. I know everyone complains about Seawolves having a narrow field in the sea with our defense. I feel like definitely a bit of the same, good set pieces from the forwards, give the ball to the backs, and then try and get around them. Definitely up the tempo. I feel like Utah, we definitely up the tempo a little bit after the bye week that we had, and looking to do the same again.
Definitely. No, and it's going to be an exciting match, and we're ready to watch it. Kind of want to shift gears a little bit now. It's been great to hear about the season and kind of how you guys are thinking about that. It's great to hear how hungry you guys are again at this point of the year, right? These last couple of weeks are going to really come down to it. This playoff seedings kind of thing. And then we'll move into those first round of the playoffs, and it'll be, go home or go big or go home from there, I guess. So hoping to see you guys pull out that first win. And obviously we got a few weeks till then, so play some good rugby until then. Kind of want to, like I said, move into the second part here. When did you start playing rugby, and then why did you stick with it?
I actually have a bit of an interesting story coming from a soccer background. So I only discovered rugby in my high school career. I only got enticed to come try it for rugby because one of the rugby coaches intrigued me by saying they'll give me a pair of boots just to come try out for rugby, which in the back of my mind, I thought I'm going to use to go play soccer again. And yeah, I just fell in love with the game from the get-go. And yeah, it's something you can't explain, but the culture in rugby is just different.
Definitely. No, that's something that, I tried to latch onto as well, kind of going into rugby, my journey. I started off kind of in high school the same kind of way. I was a baseball kid growing up. Never really had been introduced to the sport at all. Some of my buddies from baseball were going over to play football, played the football season, my first kind of American football year, and then ended up transitioning straight into rugby from that. And that year I was able to actually go out to the Las Vegas Sevens, see that culture that you talk about, see that kind of aspect of the game, right? And I didn't see that in baseball, didn't see, the rest of the world playing the same game that I was. And I really saw the opportunity in rugby and kind of took it from there. So it's great to hear kind of your story in there as well, of how you kind of grasp onto that in high school, right? Because I think one of my favorite parts about the game is, first of all, everybody's willing to take and give knowledge, right? So once you're a new guy, you're being taught the game. And then once you get to that stage where you know a lot of stuff about the game, you're able to give back. But inside of that, I think, the coolest part about it is that we're able to, come from different sports, different backgrounds, and really just combine and play this great game. No matter what level of rugby you play, there's going to be guys like that where they're either in their 10th year or in their first year kind of thing. There's all kinds of guys like that in each level of rugby. Next question here. Some point we hold on sides of that. You spent a few years with the Blue Bulls organization. What were you able to take away from kind of that experience being there as a younger guy?
Yeah, I feel like my time at the Blue Bulls was quite extensive. I went through about 5 coaches in my time during at the Bulls. I feel like
Yeah,
I've started becoming a student of the game, especially learning different coaching techniques and like different styles of play as a game of rugby evolves, as the rules evolve. I feel like it's quite a nice view of things when you get to learn and kind of develop and evolve with the game as well.
definitely. Yeah, and after playing this long of rugby, you've made your way here to the states now and been able to play some different kind of rugby here in the states in the MLR. What has that experience been like for you? Kind of the level of play, just how rugby's being played out here.
Southern Hemisphere I always thought was the top elite type of rugby, especially if you look at Super Rugby and which changed to URC now with the Southern Hemisphere teams going into the Northern Hemisphere. Yeah, the level of rugby is definitely up there with some of the best. I feel like I was shocked by the or intensity of contact or quality of league this game. They go, and that was a good eye opener and that I can share with a lot of other rugby players looking to come and play abroad as well.
Definitely. I got my dog barking in the background here, so I'm not sure if he's gonna be done with that here in a second. I think somebody just knocked on the door, but we should be all good. Let me actually go check on him real fast and give me 30 seconds here. Sorry about that.
Thanks, AJ.
Sorry about that, Jade. I had somebody show up at the door and dog was barking there. Had to handle that real fast.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it's been great to talk to you about the rugby journey and kind of all those aspects of your journey there. In terms of rugby, you've been able to play with guys from different backgrounds all over the world, different leagues, different places, I guess, different styles of play, all those kinds of things. What have you been able to learn from some of the guys this year on the Seawolves? A lot of different backgrounds there. What have you been able to take away from that?
I feel like the passion for the game, for sure. I feel like the level and intensity of the passion for the game that they have here is unreal. I always looked at America as some of the best athletes in the world. And I feel like that backed up with the level of passion they have for the game at the moment will definitely be a force to reckon with in the next couple of years leading into the following World Cup being hosted in America.
Yeah, no, and definitely, I think it's one of the great things that I see in the MLR these days, right? Is that guys are hungry. Guys haven't got those international caps. There's not a lot of guys with a lot of that international experience, and they're really fighting for those opportunities, right? I think one of the great things too is that we're seeing those vets even really put in the hard work these days in the MLR and try and number one grow the game, but also kind of get that level of play up to that standard that we talk about, right? And one of the things that we talk about too is that hunger between the Seawolves and that kind of that squad, right? And it's just been great to hear from you guys and kind of how that's played out this season for you guys. One thing I want to know, obviously you played rugby for a long time. You got to love something about it. What's kind of keeping that love for the game alive for you today? You kind of talk about the passion and kind of, merging with the guys, but what's really the end goal, keeping that in mind for you?
Like rugby gives you a lot of opportunities off the field as well with the people that you get to interact with. But I feel like the culture is something that you take with you on the like just in life in general. If I can take a moment from what happened in the game against Utah, where one of John Droste that got a bit of a head knock in the game, where Isaiah Lopetti, the 13 from Utah, actually like stuck with him and just to make sure he's fine on the field regardless of the scoreboard or how far they were behind, you actually try to look after opposition player, which kind of like sums rugby up. It's a hooligan sport played by gentlemen, if age old saying, but yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a hooligan sport played by gentlemen, right? A sport for hooligans played by gentlemen. That's what I've heard. Something that you mentioned there. It's a great game that brings people together at all kinds of different backgrounds, like I said before. All shapes and sizes. For me, I'm a guy who's, a smaller kind of guy, kind of like JP Smith, right? Just a smaller dude, playing scrum half. So there's a spot on the field for guys like me, and there's a spot on the field for guys like Sam Matanga, right? Or Cameron Orr. Just, masses of men. There's spot, that's kind of the great part about rugby. It's all shapes and sizes, and it's a game for hooligans played by gentlemen, like we said. So great to hear kind of your aspect of that and what's keeping you in the game today. I know obviously, after playing this long, playing rugby for this long at this, high of a level, you might get not tired of it yet, but just, kind of in the progression of it, right? And just kind of going over the motions. You don't want to get into that. And so it's great to hear that you still have that love for the game. Of course, you're still on the younger side of that, but great to hear that either way. Last question for you. Sorry about the dog and all that message today, but last question for you here. Talked about your lessons, you learned from the game, journey through the ranks. What advice do you have for younger guys kind of trying to get those opportunities on the pitch still?
Oh, for the younger generation, I feel like they just stay ready. If you stay ready, you don't got to get ready. A lot of guys neglect the fact that you can get better every day. I feel like just stick to it. You might not see the results today or tomorrow, but a couple of months down the line, that's where you actually see the fruition of all the hard work you put in.
There you go. There you go. That's great. That's a great piece of advice there. Stay focused, stay ready. Don't got to get ready. I think that's the best piece of advice you can give right there. Jade, it's been a great time to have you on today. I appreciate your time. Sorry for the mishap there. We'll get that figured out. But best of luck to you and the boys this weekend, and we'll be excited to watch you.
Thanks, Dylan. Appreciate
Yes,
it.
sir. All righty. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, guys. That's going to sum up our first half of the interviews here today. Sorry about that mishap there. The dog was going crazy there. I had somebody knocking at the door, so I had to go answer that real fast. But kind of get into the second interview here. Going to talk to Gene Droste, number 5 for the Seawolves this week, 4 of the match. And just going to talk to him a little bit about the rest of the season, just like we did with Jade and everybody else. A great interview there from Jade, and great to hear his aspect and his perspective of kind of gonna have Gene here. Gene,
Hi, Dil. How are you doing?
doing great.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me fine?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Great to see you today, and great to have you on. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for
My
having
name played rugby at the University of Utah, so fellow rugger myself, and just here to chat some rugby with you. Talk a little bit about your season and then yourself as a player as well. So very excited to get to that today, and thanks for joining us.
thanks for having me.
Definitely. So just give our viewers a little bit of background on you. Gene's professional rugby spans over 10 years with a handful of teams, including the Sharks in the Vodacom Cup, Curie Cup, and Super Rugby. He also spent a few years over in Japan's Rugby League One and was signed by Seattle before the season. In 2024, Gene has been a pillar for the Seawall and finds himself as a forward of the week this week with the win against Utah. How you doing after that big win? Sure the body's a bit sore, but how?
Yeah, body is a bit sore, and obviously, like Jade mentioned, I got a bit of a head knock in the game, so still trying to recover from that. But otherwise, I'm doing well. Obviously, the forwards put up a great platform for the backs to play off, and obviously really thrilled about the performance, and obviously looking to build towards Houston this coming week.
Definitely. No, it was a great performance overall, right?
Yeah.
That set piece play really coming to play in this game, and I think the lineout has been your bread and butter kind of all season long, right, with the forwards. And we were able to kind of see a change in the forward pack this week. I think 4 changes from last week's squad or 2 weeks ago. You guys were still able to kind of make that bread and butter really work and put the backs on their front foot to score some of those tries. 2 tries forwards and 8 tries from the back does not show kind of how that ball worked out this week for you guys, and how that line out puts them on their front foot to score those tries. So just want to hear kind of your aspect of that. Talk a little bit about how it comes to be with the forward pack, making those changes. What's it like to be kind of in that group?
Yeah, obviously we've had a couple of season-ending injuries, losing our captain and obviously Chuck and them. So obviously it's been the guys stepping up has done a really good job of learning quickly. Obviously they've been here for a couple of weeks, so just really tough. I'm really proud of them to step up to the professional league and obviously put up a great performance as well. So obviously we hold ourselves to a high standard. Come line out time and scrum time, we work really hard during the week, make sure our processes are good for the weekend, and obviously to analyze the team we're playing against. So that doesn't change this week against Houston. We feel that obviously they've got a big physical back, and we need to bar up as forwards. Obviously set piece is our bread and butter, so we need to step up in that regard.
Definitely. No, and it's going to be a great against Houston. Obviously, it was a close. I think it's 42-40 last time you guys played up in Tukwila. It was a close match. It was one of those could have gone either way. Really, really could have. And I think probably the best, if not one of the best, matches we've seen this season in the MLR. That first Houston match. So we're really excited to see this one this Saturday. We saw 80 minutes of that Seawolf rugby that I've been talking about with the guys long. Coach Lafler talked about it. It's real, disciplined, real clean rugby, taking those opportunities for what they are and, going with them at full pace. The line out and maul, how we talked about, bread and butter for, this, better part of the season. I think it speaks kind of the team's dynamic, and we kind of talked about that. How have you fit into the team this year, joining the team? What's that experience been like for you?
Yeah, it's been obviously a great start to my MLR career. Obviously, I wanted to come over here and obviously perform individually so the team is better in that regard. So obviously, if I do my best on the field, then I can help the team to do their best. So obviously, being a lock and sometimes playing on the flank. So obviously, line out time, scrum time, hitting rucks, making my tackles, working hard off the ball. So obviously, I'll just try and contribute as much as possible for the team.
Yes, sir. No, we've seen you do that all season long, being a pillar in the seawall, and then obviously, having a clear force in the rucks and the scrums, and then being, just a pillar in the lineout as well. So we've been, great to see you out there on the field and kind of bring that, overseas experience to this side. It's just been phenomenal. So great on you. Yeah, definitely. So, kind of what are the takeaways kind of moving into this big win or moving away from this big win into that match against Houston? Obviously, matchup, we talked about that, but what's the focus for kind of the forward pack there?
Yeah, obviously more of the same to create a good platform for the backs to play off. Like I said, they're a big physical pack, so obviously around the corner type of team. So we need to set early on defense and obviously smash them and obviously try and win the game line battle. So obviously set piece is going to be vital this weekend, like it was in the first game as well. So hopefully we can get it over the line this time.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'd love to see you guys do that. Is right. It's been, great rugby. Every guys clash together, and I'm sure we'll see you guys clash in the playoffs as well. Those seeds come down to these last 3 weeks here, I would say. Push you guys into that first seed, and that win or that a loss could also push you guys into the third seed, right? So, big guys and big match for Houston as well. And something that Coach Lafler talked about earlier in the year is respecting the opponent, respecting, the game, and respecting our own game as well, right? Regardless of who you're where you're playing at, regardless of what that is, the 23 on both sides that are put on the field are, meant to be there. They're being paid to play rugby at a high level, and you just got to respect that for both sides of the field. So it's going to be a great game to watch, and really excited to see that. Kind of moving on to our second part of the interview here. It's been great to, hear about the season and all that kind of stuff. A little bit more about you and, your player journey as well. When did you start playing rugby, and then why did you stick?
Yeah, so since I can remember, I had a rugby ball in my hand. It's quite a religion back in South Africa. Everybody on the weekends has a barbecue. We call it a braai over there. So we have a braai and then we watch the rugby. Obviously, the Springboks is our national team. So we get together and obviously enjoy a couple of cold ones with them. So yeah, it's I've been playing rugby since probably like 5-6 years old, and I've been loving it ever since. I played other sports at school, but rugby has always been that one thing that's, like Jade mentioned, I heard a little bit of the interview. So he said, obviously the rugby culture is something else, and that's probably why I stick to it. And yeah, like you said, also, you get paid to do what you love. So that's pretty special. So.
Exactly. No, and this has to be, one of the best jobs in the world, right?
Yeah.
Being an athlete, being able to, play the game that you love, help grow the game that you love, and then sometimes, travel the world along with it.
Yeah.
You've been able to play in Japan, South Africa, now the United States. What has traveling around the world, meeting all these different people. What does that spoke to you, about the game of rugby?
Yeah, obviously, going to Japan, I was quite young when I went over. So I played along people like Dwayne Vermeulen and Birger Odendaal, who plays for Northampton Saints. They won the Premiership just now. So people like that, just to pick their brain, obviously learn as much as you possibly could. You work with world-class coaches as well. So just try and be a student of the game and learn as much as possible. That's obviously, and trying to obviously put that in your game and try and be a better player every single time you step foot on that pitch.
100%. And I
Yeah,
think one of the how the game of rugby, kind of the culture of rugby, right, is that we're all able to or willing to share, give, and take all kinds of knowledge, information. Everybody knows a little bit about the game. It might be a little bit different than the other guy, and everybody's willing to give and take that information to each other. I
yeah,
think it's kind of the great part is that we're all able to learn from each other, regardless of what level of rugby you're playing at. There's always going to be somebody who either doesn't know as much as you do, right? Just might be a little bit below you. And there's also going to be one of those coaches who just knows everything there is to know about rugby,
yeah,
right? And you can everything there is from him. So I think the great thing about it is asking those questions, getting into those conversations. You kind of talk about that, right? Just taking things from where you're coming from and kind of your environment, just taking things from there and put them into your game as well. What are some of the big kind of takeaways you have from being a younger guy going through the ranks? How did you really make those big steps of progression?
yeah. So obviously, I think consistency is key. Um, it's really critical to play week in and week out. Obviously, injuries are part of the game, but obviously, if you can keep on the pitch, and personally, I'm a confidence player, so if I play week in and week out, and obviously I have good games, then obviously my confidence grows. So I think in that regard, obviously, yeah, I would say, yeah, it's just to play as much as possible. Obviously, to learn as much as possible. Never be afraid to ask questions. Obviously, I learn till this day. Even I'm 30 years old now, and I still learn to this day. So yeah,
Yes, sir. No, and even talking to guys like Coach Latho, right? He's a three-time World Cup guy for Australia. Has played the highest level of rugby there is to play, and he's told me that he learned stuff this season, right? Like even coaching with new guys, new players, guys he's never
mm,
met. Never really been around, and of course this new generation that he wasn't really around when he was playing rugby.
yeah,
He said he learned a lot just from being around the season, and I think it's really interesting because as a great of the game, what else is there to learn, right? And I asked him, and he basically said like there's everything and anything to learn, right? At all times, regardless of what level of your game that you're at, there's always something to learn. Kind of talk about that, asking those
yeah,
questions, doing those kinds of things, progressing your game. It's real important as we grow as rugby players. So it's great to hear from you. Kind of want to talk about your move to the MLR. Was that something thought about early on? Something that when the MLR started, you really wanted to back. How did that kind of come to fruition?
yeah. So to be honest, I never thought that playing in United States was going to be an option. Obviously, the league is so young still, and but since the inception of the league, it's been growing exponentially. So um, I spoke with a couple of players from South Africa. We've obviously have a couple at Seattle, so I spoke to a couple of them before coming to the Seawolves, and obviously just heard amazing things. And yeah, there are actually like 5 or 6 players that we played it with in under 19s. So
That's cool. Yeah,
it's a full circle coming back and playing rugby in the States again. So it's pretty cool. Yeah,
definitely. No, and I think another cool part about rugby, right, is that you're always find kind of those full circle moments. Right now, I'm kind of in my first year of college, first year of university, and I'm kind of seeing that full circle moment as like I'm playing some of my high school teammates that were like seniors when I was like in my
yeah,
first year, right? So it's how the game works like that, especially once you get into kind of the men's stage and the professional stages. You really find kind of those full circle moments where it's like, man, I never thought I'd be playing rugby with you or against you again, right? So
exactly.
a really cool part of it, and it's great to hear kind of how your journey has really made that full circle for you
Yeah,
at this point. So
yeah,
that's just great to hear. It's been great to hear about your journey, how the game has impacted you. I would say that you're still on the younger side of the game, right? And you have played a lot of rugby though. When you do something for that long, you got to find something that you love about it. What is keeping that love for the game alive for you today?
Yeah, I think just to set yourself challenges, obviously goals and stuff. I try to set myself goals in the beginning of the season. Obviously, you're not going to meet all of them, but you strive to meet as much as possible. So I think to set challenges for yourself, just to keep you alive, and obviously, um, that's why you play. You want to challenge yourself. You want to be the best. You want to win championships. You just don't play rugby just to play rugby. Obviously, you love playing rugby, but there's always a goal at the end of the day. So
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
yeah,
Yes. Oh, and there has to, going out to the pitch every day, making sacrifices for either, the family, other jobs you could be working, whatever that may be,
yeah,
price to be made. And so going out to the pitch for a purpose is what I like to say. Going out to the pitch for a purpose, regardless if I'm just working on a few kicks, just working on carrying the ball, maybe making some tackles with a bag or a pal or whatever. You got to have a purpose for why you're going on the pitch. And I
exactly.
think, good to hear kind of how you think about that, right? Is winning championships, and that's really what it's about. Having fun and winning championships is fun.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that. So, great to see you guys kind of get into that postseason form and really try and chase that championship this year as two-time Shield winners the Seawolves are. So, yeah, been great. It's great to hear about that. Last question for you here to end off our interview. We talked about lessons you've had, learned from the game, and your journey through the ranks. What advice do you have for younger players trying to get these goals or they have these goals of getting to the higher ranks of rugby? What advice do you have for them?
yeah. I believe you get a certain amount of opportunities in your lifetime. Um, I've been fortunate enough to take the opportunity. So yeah, I just like Jade said as well, to be ready once that opportunity comes. Obviously, talent only takes you that far, and then the hard works need to start. And also, don't be afraid to ask mentors and players who's been experienced and has gone through like professional rugby. Try to ask as much as possible. Be a student of the game, and that's about it.
Yeah, so that's a great piece of advice there, and something I've been taking along with me in these interviews is being a student of the game. So it's great to hear that from you firsthand.
Yeah,
Great to have you on today, and a pleasure to have the live here. Best of luck to you and the boys throughout the season and this weekend.
yeah. Appreciate it, Dylan. Thanks for having me, and yeah, all the best to you as well.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you very, very much. Go
Yeah,
Seawolves.
yeah. Thanks so much, man. Go Seawolves.
All righty. So that's going to wrap up our interviews for this week with the Seawolves. Thanks for joining us today. And we have 8 followers here at the end, but had about 25 at the beginning there in the middle. So again, thanks for joining us today. Really enjoy talking to these players about, the game of rugby, how they see it and from their perspective as professional rugby, athletes in this country. And then, their move kind of to the MLR. And then all, how that's going on and how that's working. I see a comment here about how's Rookie, and I will definitely go ahead and ask them next week how Rookie the Seawolf was doing because I'm really interested to see that answer as well. But again, thanks for joining us today. If you guys want to go check out that podcast that I was on a few weeks ago, The Jackal's Den, you can find that on my Instagram page or on their Instagram page as well. So again, thanks for joining us today, and Barstool Rugby